As flames engulf the charity gala, panic grips the guests, but one unassuming waitress, Emily, stands resolute. Will her quick thinking save lives, or will she become just another victim of the blaze? Emily Thompson adjusted the black dress that clung modestly to her frame, her fingers nervously smoothing down the fabric. The charity gala was in full swing, a dazzling affair held in an opulent ballroom filled with shimmering chandeliers and glimmering gowns. As a waitress, Emily blended into the backdrop of wealth and luxury, serving drinks and hors d'oeuvres to a sea of elegantly dressed guests. She wore a forced smile, trying to ignore the way their laughter and chatter often seemed to float over her, as if she were invisible. The guests were engrossed in conversations about their latest business successes and extravagant vacations, their laughter echoing against the walls. Emily caught snippets of their conversations, filled with names and places she could hardly fathom. Occasionally, she felt the sharp sting of their dismissive glances, their eyes lingering on her simple attire. A group of elite guests, dressed in designer suits and gowns, exchanged glances and smirked as she navigated through the crowd, her heart sinking with each disdainful look. Suddenly, a loud crash erupted from the back room, sending a ripple of shock through the attendees. The chatter stilled, and Emily's heart raced as she watched the lights flicker ominously. A thin wisp of smoke began to seep into the main hall, curling around the guests like a ghostly hand. Confusion and fear rippled through the crowd. Emily's instincts kicked in as she noticed the panic spread. Some guests were frozen in place, their expressions shifting from surprise to terror. She took a deep breath, her pulse quickening. Panic erupted like a wave crashing against the shore as flames burst into the main room, licking at the opulent decorations that had moments ago seemed so inviting. Guests screamed, their voices rising in a cacophony of fear as they rushed toward the exits, trampling over one another in their frantic attempts to escape the inferno. Glasses shattered, and the scent of smoke mixed with the remnants of expensive perfume. Emily stood frozen for a moment, taking in the chaos, her heart pounding in her chest. The elegant gala that had felt so distant and foreign was now a nightmare unfolding before her. But amidst the chaos, Emily felt a strange calmness wash over her. She assessed the situation quickly. Many guests were paralyzed by fear, unable to move or think clearly. With a determined breath, she stepped forward, raising her voice above the din. Everyone, form a line. Head toward the exits. She shouted, her voice cutting through the panic like a knife. A few heads turned, eyebrows furrowing in confusion, and some guests scoffed at her authority. A woman in a sequined gown rolled her eyes, muttering about the help trying to take charge. But Emily didn't waver. She couldn't. Drawing on her past experiences, she directed the nearest group toward the left exit, where the flames had yet to spread. Come on. Move, she urged, her tone firm yet encouraging. Slowly, they began to follow her lead, hesitant at first but eventually forming a line. She spotted a few familiar faces among the crowd, people she had served, who had ignored her presence only moments ago. They hesitated, glancing at one another, unsure of what to do. Please. We need to go. Emily pleaded, forcing herself to make eye contact, her sincerity cutting through their hesitation. The fire crackled ominously behind her, and she could feel the heat on her back, urging her to act. Help me, she shouted to a nearby waiter, a tall man named Marcus who had never spoken to her beyond a brief nod. We need to get everyone out. He met her gaze, uncertainty etched across his face, but he nodded and joined her in leading the guests toward safety. As they moved people through the smoke, Emily caught sight of a small group huddled together, frozen in place, their expressions wide-eyed and terrified. Among them was a young girl, no older than 7, her face streaked with tears. Emily's heart twisted at the sight. The child was clearly paralyzed by fear. Hey! You! Emily called out to the adults surrounding the girl. Get her out. We can't leave anyone behind. Several guests glanced at her, still unsure. We need to go. Now. Finally, one of the adults, an older man in a tuxedo, reached for the girl, but she flinched, too scared to move. Emily felt a rush of determination. She stepped forward, kneeling to the girl's level. It's okay, sweetheart. My name is Emily. We're going to get you out of here, but I need you to trust me. Can you do that? The girl looked at her, uncertainty flickering in her eyes, but Emily smiled gently, the warmth of her gaze piercing through the smoke. You're brave, I can see that. Just hold my hand, and we'll get out together. You're not alone. Slowly, the girl reached out, her small hand trembling as it found Emily's. The warmth of the child's grip sparked a surge of courage within Emily. She stood, leading the girl toward the exit, her heart racing as the flames danced closer. She turned back to the adults, who still hesitated. Come on. Follow us. We can do this together. The adults finally moved, spurred by Emily's unwavering resolve. As they all began to make their way through the smoke and chaos, Emily felt a sense of purpose envelop her. She was no longer just a waitress, she was a leader, a protector, and she would do whatever it took to ensure everyone made it out alive. With every step, she guided the child, reassuring her with soft words, even as the heat intensified. Emily's focus remained on the exit, the glimmer of light ahead representing hope and safety. The crowd began to follow, and as more guests listened to her, a wave of gratitude washed over her, fueling her determination to keep pushing forward. As they neared the exit, Emily caught a glimpse of her fellow staff members, their faces a mix of fear and admiration as they watched her take charge. She felt their eyes on her, and for the first time, she didn't feel invisible. In that moment, she realized the power of her voice, her presence, and the strength that lay within her. She wasn't just a waitress, she was a lifeline in this sea of chaos. Emily's childhood was filled with lessons on courage and compassion, taught by a woman who dedicated her life to helping others. Her mother, a dedicated nurse in their small town, often brought Emily along to community clinics, teaching her the importance of first aid and the impact of a kind word in a moment of fear. Emily remembered the way her mother's hands moved with confidence, bandaging wounds and comforting patients with a gentle touch. Those early lessons had seeped into her marrow, shaping her into someone who cared deeply for those around her. As a young adult, Emily had pursued her dream of becoming an EMT, fueled by the desire to make a difference. However, life had a different plan. A family crisis forced her to drop out of training, leaving her to shoulder the responsibility of caring for her younger sibling after their parents' tragic passing. The weight of loss had been heavy, but it had also ignited a fierce resilience within her. Emily learned how to manage household bills, juggle work shifts, and still find time to support her sibling, all while mourning the future she had envisioned for herself. Now, as she stood amidst the chaos of the gala, those lessons came rushing back. The calmness she had felt earlier transformed into a sharp focus. Emily was determined not to let fear dictate the outcome. She guided guests through the smoke-filled room, her voice steady as she called out directions. To the left. Keep moving. Stay close to the walls. She felt the adrenaline pumping through her veins, invigorating her as she navigated through the confusion, her heart pounding but her mind crystal clear. The flames roared behind them, the heat intensifying as they moved closer to the exits. Emily's instincts kicked in, her training surfacing as she recalled how to keep calm in an emergency. She spotted an elderly woman struggling to keep pace, her breathing labored. "Ma'am, you're doing great. Just a little further, and you'll be safe," Emily encouraged, her voice cutting through the noise. The woman nodded, and Emily offered her arm for support. They were almost there. Just then, a loud explosion rattled the building, causing the ground to tremble beneath their feet. Panic surged through the crowd once more, and Emily felt her stomach drop. She spotted the little girl from earlier, still frozen in place, her eyes wide with terror. Emily's heart raced as she made a split-second decision. I have to go back, she thought, her heart pounding with urgency. Stay here, she instructed the group, quickly returning into the smoke, her eyes scanning for the child. Where are you? I'm coming, she called, her voice rising above the chaos. The air was thick, each breath a struggle as she fought against the smoke that clawed at her lungs. Finally, she found the girl, huddled against a wall, her small body shaking. Emily knelt beside her, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. Hey, it's okay. I'm here. We're going to get you out of here, I promise. The child looked up, eyes filled with fear, but there was a flicker of hope there too. Can you stand? Emily asked gently. The girl nodded, tears streaming down her cheeks. Good. Just hold my hand, and we'll go together. The girl grasped Emily's hand tightly, and Emily felt a surge of warmth in that small gesture. With the girl in tow, Emily turned back towards the exit, her heart racing as the fire crackled ominously behind them. The smoke thickened, but she kept her focus on the sliver of light ahead. We can do this, she whispered, more to herself than to the girl. Just keep moving. Together, they navigated through the haze. Emily guided the girl, her instincts kicking in as she recalled her mother's teachings. Remember what we practiced. In through the nose, out through the mouth. You can do it. The girl followed her lead, and Emily felt a flicker of pride as they moved closer to safety. As they neared the exit, the crowd beyond began to part, creating a pathway. Emily's fellow staff members stood on the other side, their faces a mixture of awe and relief as they witnessed her courage. Emily emerged from the smoke, the little girl still holding her hand tightly, and the sight of the crowd before her was both exhilarating and terrifying. Keep going. We're almost there, she called to the others still trapped inside. She couldn't stop now, they were counting on her. As she stepped into the fresh air, she felt the cool breeze against her face, a stark contrast to the heat that had surrounded them moments ago. Relief washed over her, but there was no time to celebrate yet. The crowd beyond the doors erupted in cheers as Emily led the girl forward, their eyes wide with admiration. She felt a swell of pride, realizing that the guests who had once dismissed her were now watching in awe. For the first time in her life, she didn't feel invisible, she felt powerful. Thank you, the elderly woman called out, her voice filled with gratitude. Emily turned to see the woman's face, her eyes glistening with tears of relief and admiration. Just doing what anyone would do, Emily replied, her voice steady despite the chaos around them. She felt a shift in the atmosphere, a recognition of her strength and leadership that had been absent just hours before. It was as if the gala had transformed into something far more significant, and in that moment, Emily understood that she was not just a waitress, she was a beacon of hope in a desperate situation. As the fire spread, the air thickened with smoke, and a loud explosion rattled the building, causing panic to surge through the crowd once more. Emily's heart raced as she watched some guests abandon their attempts to help others, choosing instead to flee without looking back. The cries of the terrified filled the air, mingling with the crackling flames, creating a horrifying symphony of chaos. In that moment, Emily's resolve hardened. She knew she couldn't leave anyone behind, not when she had the ability to help. Amidst the swirling smoke, she caught sight of a young child, frozen in fear, standing alone near the corner of the room. A surge of adrenaline shot through her, and without a second thought, she dashed back into the smoke. Stay calm. I'm coming, she shouted, her voice cutting through the chaos like a lifeline. She reached the child, a little girl with wide, terrified eyes, her small frame trembling. Emily knelt down, bringing herself to eye level with the girl. Hey there. My name is Emily. We're going to get you out of here. Can you hold my hand? The girl nodded, tears streaming down her cheeks, and reached out hesitantly. Emily took her hand firmly, feeling a rush of determination. "Let's go. I need you to stay close to me, okay?" As they turned to navigate through the smoke, Emily's mind raced. She struggled to see through the thick haze, her lungs burning from the acrid air, but she focused on the sound of the chaos around them. "Just a little further," she coaxed, her voice steady despite the fear coursing through her veins. As they moved, the heat from the flames intensified, causing beads of sweat to trickle down Emily's back. She could feel the panic rising, but she steeled herself, remembering the importance of keeping calm. "We can do this together," she whispered to the girl, who squeezed her hand tighter. "Just keep walking, I promise you're safe with me." They pushed forward, the exit looming closer, but the smoke thickened, and Emily realized they had veered off course. "Hold on," she shouted, her voice strained as she fought against the disorienting haze. They stumbled through the debris, Emily's heart pounding as she searched for any sign of the exit. Moments felt like hours, but she refused to give up. She recalled the emergency exit plans she had studied, the diagrams she had memorized during her brief training. "The exit should be this way," she called out, remembering the way the room was laid out. Just as doubt began to creep in, a flicker of light broke through the smoke ahead. "There it is. We're almost there," she exclaimed, her voice laced with urgency. With renewed vigor, she led the girl forward, the flames roaring behind them. The child's grip was strong, and Emily felt a surge of hope. They could make it. As they approached the exit, Emily turned to ensure the girl was still behind her. The sight of the little one's terrified face ignited a fierce determination within her. "We're going to be okay," she reassured, urging them both onward. Just a few more steps. The heat was unbearable now, and she could feel the flames licking at her heels. They were so close, and she could hear the voices of the crowd outside, calling for them. Finally, they burst through the door, stumbling into the fresh air. Emily gasped, the cool breeze hitting her face like a wave of relief. She turned to see the girl's wide eyes filled with a mixture of fear and awe. "You did it. We made it," Emily exclaimed, kneeling down to the girl's level, their hands still clasped tightly. The cheers from the crowd grew louder, enveloping them in a wave of gratitude and relief. But Emily's heart raced as she realized that her work wasn't finished. She couldn't bask in the glory of their escape just yet. The chaos was still brewing inside, and there were others who needed help. "Stay here," she instructed the girl gently, before turning back toward the building. "I'll be right back. I promise." With determination fueling her steps, Emily rushed back inside, her heart pounding in her chest. The air was thick and suffocating, but she pressed on, calling out for anyone left behind. "Is anyone there? I can help you." Her voice echoed against the walls, and she felt a flicker of hope that someone might hear her. In the distance, she spotted a group of guests huddled together, their faces pale with fear. "Follow me. I can get you out," she shouted, urging them to move. The group hesitated, fear clouding their judgment, but Emily's presence seemed to break through their panic. They began to follow her, and as she led them toward the exit, she felt a sense of purpose wash over her. Every step felt monumental. Emily's heart raced, but she kept her voice steady, guiding them through the smoke and debris. She could hear the flames crackling behind them, the sound of destruction urging her to move faster. "Keep going. You're almost there," she called to the group, each word a push toward safety. As they neared the exit, the heat intensified, and Emily felt a wave of relief wash over her as they finally burst into the cool night air. The crowd outside erupted into applause, and Emily turned to see the grateful faces of those she had saved. It was a surreal moment, one that transformed the chaos of the gala into something meaningful. But there was no time to rest. The fire raged behind them, and Emily knew there were still more people inside. She couldn't stop now. "Is anyone else in there?" she shouted back into the building, her heart racing at the thought of those still trapped. The crowd outside watched with a mix of admiration and concern, but Emily felt a fierce determination igniting within her. She would not leave until everyone was safe. With each moment, she felt her resolve strengthen. She had come too far to back down now. Emily turned back toward the entrance, her heart pounding with purpose. She would continue to fight for those in need, not just as a waitress but as someone who had finally found her voice and strength in the face of adversity. News of Emily's heroism spread like wildfire, igniting the community with tales of bravery and selflessness. Videos captured her every move, showcasing the moment she rushed back into the smoke to save the little girl and the cheers that echoed when she emerged. Social media buzzed with admiration, and within hours, she had transformed from an overlooked waitress into a local hero. Formerly dismissive guests approached her with expressions of gratitude, their eyes wide with newfound respect. "I never knew you had it in you," one man, who had previously scoffed at her, said, his tone a mixture of awe and shame. Emily felt the weight of their judgment lift, replaced by a sense of belonging she had never anticipated. She was no longer invisible, she was at the center of a community's gratitude. Among the crowd, a prominent charity leader stepped forward, extending his hand towards Emily. "Your courage today was extraordinary," he said, his voice steady and sincere. "We need more people like you in emergency response. I would like to offer you a scholarship for advanced emergency training. You have a gift, and it's time you stepped into your potential." Emily hesitated, her heart racing. The offer felt surreal. It was an opportunity she had once longed for but had abandoned. Memories flooded her mind of her dreams to be an EMT, the sacrifices she had made for her family, and the years spent caring for her younger sibling. A mix of fear and exhilaration coursed through her as she considered the path ahead. "Are you sure?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "I've been away from that world for so long." "Exactly," he replied, his eyes shining with encouragement. "You've shown us that you possess the heart and courage required for this work. This is your chance to reclaim your dreams." Emily glanced around at the faces of those she had helped, their expressions filled with admiration and respect. In that moment, she felt a fire ignite within her, a determination to embrace her dreams, not just for herself, but for those who looked to her for strength. With a deep breath, she nodded. "Yes. I accept." The cheers that erupted from the crowd filled her with a sense of purpose she had never known before. She could feel the support surrounding her, a newfound community that recognized her strength and determination. The next few weeks were a whirlwind as Emily began her training. She donned a new uniform, one that represented her commitment to helping others and reclaiming her dreams. Each day brought challenges, but with every obstacle, she felt herself growing stronger, more capable. The knowledge she had once craved was finally within her grasp, and she embraced it wholeheartedly. As she stood in her uniform on the first day of her new role, her heart swelled with pride. She glanced around the room, seeing familiar faces from the gala now standing beside her as colleagues and friends. Together, they would work to ensure the safety of their community, and Emily felt a sense of belonging she had long yearned for. In that moment, Emily Thompson knew she was no longer just a waitress, she was a leader, a protector, and a beacon of hope for those around her. The charity gala had changed her life forever, and she was ready to embrace the future, fueled by the determination to make a difference in the lives of others. The journey ahead was filled with promise, and she was ready to dive in, heart first.